Another vector in which it has changed dramatically, think about the environment. How many of you all think that the air today is dirtier than it was 25 years ago? Well, come on, be honest. Well, I would say that this is an atypical room. Typically, if you ask that question, people answer it, yeah, 70%. In reality, the air is about 40% cleaner of all regulated pollutants than it was 25 years ago. But the sensitivity that people have to the environment is much more heightened than it was then. But fundamentally, we can't meet the 21st century energy needs with mid-20th century technology. We've got to develop self-healing grids. We've got to have two-way communications to better meet customers' needs and to facilitate new services. We've got to approach energy efficiency in a completely new way. Energy efficiency may be, and in most instances is, the cheapest source of power. It's the cheapest power plant you can build. But the systems that we have today don't necessarily foster that. And Jim's going to spend some time talking about how do we need to change that business model. Now, everyone has their own concept of what the smart grid is. This is an exemplification for me that works because it shows a couple things. One, we're talking about something that's smarter, not just bigger. Two, we're talking about something that can self-heal and reduce the amount of reserves, if you will, that we have to keep within the system. Three, it provides for the interconnectedness of expanded services that customers will need. Four, it does provide the opportunity for more accurate price signals to customers, but let me just make a comment about that. I'm an economist. And, you know, you're taught, obviously, and you believe that price signals are the important way to adjust consumption. But I got to tell you, as a CEO of an energy company that has politically motivated regulators standing between me and customers who believe that electricity is an essential commodity, it's not like making a decision, am I going to buy a $23,000 Prius or a $55,000 BMW? I got to have electricity. And many of them think it's a public good. So the issue of price signals, I think, takes on a very different character within this industry. But we've got to develop not a single technology, but a suite of tools that can be used to meet these future customer needs. And there has to be an infrastructure that supports this. Let me just touch briefly on this. The communications infrastructure has got to be, we've learned from the computer world, it's got to be open architecture, it's got to be plug and play, and it's got to facilitate two-way communications. Those are essentials. And too many people developing these new technologies in the first rounds tried to do it with proprietary architecture. The industry is going to stand firm that we will not play with proprietary architecture. We cannot afford that kind of an investment for something that isn't flexible and adaptable. The second goes to the issue about prices. I personally do not believe that you change consumer behavior, particularly in the short and near term, by giving customers real-time prices or giving them dramatically different price signals. Why? Because it's an essential commodity and customers don't want to screw with it. They just don't want to mess with it. But you provide them devices, intelligent devices that can take price signals off of the internet and then adjust the way in which they operate to reduce consumption and minimize cost. Now you're talking. The whole concept of prices to devices, not prices to people, is what ought to be one of the slogans for you all to pick up and carry. That's where technology can really come into play, is to facilitate those devices that can take price signals and manage the energy consumption for customers. On innovative regulation and rates, this really goes to the business models that Jim's going to touch on. The only thing I'm going to say is utilities can be the facilitator for all of these changes that need to take place. And I would urge that you think about not working around utilities or trying to think of yourselves or your companies that you invest in as alternatives to utilities, but how can utilities help facilitate the introduction of your commodities to the customers that you want to attach? This picture just shows what the total generation is and the fuel types in 2005 through 2095, and the size represents the size of the amount of generation that has to be built. So by 2050, it's a doubling. By 2095, it's more than a tripling. If you look today for non-emitting generation, which is that purple, it's about 35% of the fuel mix. 20% of it's nuclear, 20 percentage points of nuclear. A lot of the balance is hydro, and then there's a small amount of other things. By 2050, you have to take the purple and that ugly green color. I'm sorry, I hope nobody's wearing that green. You got to add those two together, and you got to get to 65% in order to be on a trajectory to meet a 450 to 550 parts per million future. Of a generation portfolio that's twice as large as it is in 2005. And by 2095, it's got to be 95% of a portfolio that's 3 times as large. That is a daunting, daunting undertaking. And we're not going to get there using today's technology or refinements in that technology. We have got to get there by bringing completely different technologies, when they're proven, into the stream so that they can be deployed. But let me give you one personal viewpoint. I won't call it advice, because you can reject it if you want. There are many people that represent the clean energy movement who have a tendency to say, well, this technology or that technology can revolutionize everything and solve the world's problems. Well, Jim and I are older. We've heard that nuclear was too cheap to meter. We heard that natural gas had to be completely abandoned in favor of coal. And then 10 years later, we found out that, oh no, that's wrong, natural gas is the fuel of choice. You know, we've seen these single silver bullet ideas come and go. And the worst folly that can occur is for public policy to fall in that trap. It's going to take efficiency. It's going to take renewables. It's going to take new nuclear. It's going to take the continued use of coal, but in a different way. We've got to find a way to be able to capture and sequester it. Absolutely, plug-in hybrids, distributed energy resources are going to be a part of it, and they will change dramatically the future. The one thing that will change our industry more than anything else is storage. You find cost-effective storage, and you will technologically revolutionize our industry. Because the thing that makes us unique is that we have a commodity that has to be delivered instantaneously with no significant way to store. There is a dearth of technology investment that venture capital can help fill. But let me suggest to you it's huge. Since DOE was created, DOE funding into energy R&D has declined 80% in real terms. And that is where energy R&D largely got done. I chair EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute. 15 years ago, the amount of money going into EPRI was close to $1 billion a year. Today, it's $300 million. Why? Well, people want rates to be lower. We have to find ways that we cut. And one of the things that's been cut a lot by some companies, not Jim's, not mine, has been R&D. There's a huge need for R&D, but not so much the R&D, it's the D&D after that. It's development and demonstration. Second, there is a wide open opportunity to help facilitate a prices to devices future, where smart devices can help make things happen for a customer. Third, the future for us, and this is very hard for our regulators to understand, is that we're moving away from command control to customer control. But we need customers and technology to help facilitate that.